Welcome to the Tactical Dent Tech podcast. You are now part of a small underground movement of dent technicians from all over the world. We are on a mission to change our industry with innovation, intelligence, and skill. But because we don't rely on an insurance company to steer customers our way, we need to do things different. We need to do things smarter. We do that through a network of technicians that we call the Tactical Tech Movement. Now let's get this revolution started. Hey everybody, this is John Hiley here with my first episode of the Tactical Dent Tech podcast. Try to give you an idea, number one, of who I am. So some of you guys out there who may not know me or you haven't seen me around the industry, again, my name is John Hiley, and started a company called Tactical PDR Tools, and it's kind of branched into my new brand. So I actually got tacticaldenttraining.com. Also, I am the owner of denttrainer.com. So I'm actually, me and another guy, Mike Toledo, business partner of mine, owner in denttrainer.com. I'm also the host of a few different podcasts. So I'm actually a host of PDR Tooltime podcast, and I'm also a host in John and Tom 360 podcast. So that is my success podcast, and the other one is a tool podcast, obviously about tools in the paintless dent removal industry. So I've been doing this for a while, for quite a long time, and I drop a lot of information out there from every angle, and this is just the purpose of this podcast is for me to be able to drop more information specifically about techniques, whether that is a technique on how to repair a dent, or whether that's a technique on a business idea or anything that comes to mind. These podcasts are going to be short. They're going to be somewhere in the range of about 10 minutes, 5-minute podcast, sometimes 15, 20-minute podcast. I want to do a weekly, so this is going to be a weekly thing, weekly podcast, and essentially the purpose is to bring value to my listeners. And it's just going to be a journey that I'm looking forward to. I definitely want this outlet where I can just sit here and talk technique, or I can talk, in a sense, a business technique. So every aspect I'm wanting to try to encompass in the PDR-related field, or I might drop a tool, or whatever it is. Ideally, this podcast is just going to be designed to bring value to you and value to your life as a dent technician. That's my objective. That's my goal. And otherwise, I've been doing paintless dent removal for quite a long time now. I actually started full-time in 2003. I'd even been practicing, other techniques previous to that, but I actually went full-time into PDR in 2003, and I was not good at it when I first learned how to do paintless dent removal. It took me, I want to say, probably 6 or 7 years to become really, decent at it. And I go over that. Any of you guys who have watched my webinar and seen my story, I actually go over like my aha moments and, the long, hard journey that it took to me to become a good dent technician. And after that, I looked back and said, I was like, if I had to go through this journey and I made all these mistakes, couldn't I teach other people how to get to where I'm at now without going through all of that or going through all of these mistakes? So I like to call that, what I feel looking back at it now is that all the products and everything I do is the cure for what I call the industry education epidemic. What that is that I was trained by several people, trained by, a big company, and I just never received the type of knowledge that I currently have today, or the type of knowledge that we're giving to not only our members of denttrainer.com, but the knowledge that I'm going to be dropping in this podcast. So this is just another way for me to cure what I like to call the industry education epidemic, okay? So I don't want you guys to go through what I went through, taking it so long to learn this trade. I want your journey to be easier because you're going to be able to learn from my mistakes, and essentially we're going to be able to learn together moving forward on this podcast. So another purpose for the podcast is that I want to document this journey from this point on. Got a lot of really cool things happening right now, and I want to be able to share them with you. I want to learn by teaching you what I'm doing. I always say that when you there's never a better way to learn than to teach other people. Because when you teach other people, you're forced to articulate it in a way that other people can understand it, which makes you break it down to simple terms, and it allows you to understand your trade or your craft to the level that you can teach other people. By you guys gaining value, I'm going to get value as well just by teaching you these things, and it's going to be great. So anyhow, that's the purpose of this podcast. But essentially, the value that I want you to take away from this first podcast is that if you can get out there and you can teach people and you can live in a state or a mentality of abundance, you're going to get so much in return. So if you help enough people get to where they need to go, you're going to get to where you need to go in that process. So that's the value, that's the takeaway that I want you guys to think about on this first podcast. And so that's about it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and I look forward to seeing you guys here every week. And I don't have a specific date for this podcast. This is one of them things where I'll be doing something, I'll be working on something, and something will just come to me, and I'll run over here to my computer, or I'll do it on my phone, and I'll record a podcast, and I'll drop it, and I'll get it out to you guys. So that's my purpose on this, and like I said, I'm going to keep them short and keep them clean and get to the point. And that's going to close out the first podcast. So anyhow, guys, appreciate you. And to check out more podcasts, you can head on over to tacticaldenttech.com or check us out on iTunes and Stitcher. I'll see you on the next one.